When was the last time you started something and you were terrible at it? In today's video, we are going to go over how you can get good at the things that actually matter to you and how you can stop feeling down when you're just starting out. Coming up. Hey, I'm Sam with Systems of Impact, your place for growth-minded millennials looking to level up their careers. So before we get into how you can get good at something, we need to identify why you should get good at it, why you should actually build that skill. To tell you a little story about something, I originally started to dig into programming. And I've tried it multiple times over the years, but more recently I tried to dig into Python. Yeah, I still suck at it. But the reason for this is for you to really want to get skill acquisition, to really get good at something, there has to have something that takes place first. And I really want you to lean in and to really understand this point. To go from curiosity to interest. When you bridge that gap, that is when you can really start to get good and intentionally build that skill. But until that point, you can get curious about something, dabble your toes in it, and find out it's just not for you. And that's what Python ended up being for me. I dove into it just enough to see if it was something that moved from curiosity over to interest. And it just wasn't. And so when you think about getting good at something or really developing a skill, you have to move into that interest period, because if you don't, you move from interest to mastery. That's that next step. And if you don't have enough interest in something, you're never going to master it. There's never going to be that skill set built. Going back to Python, I can even go back into other areas, but the primary point is if you want to get good at something, you have to move into that interest piece. Let's assume you've done that. You've gone from curiosity to interest. Awesome. And here is the single key: purposeful practice. Think of it like intention. You intend to do something. That intention is the same as having that purpose. If we were to reframe it and say intentional practice, you're doing it for a reason. And so when you push into this new area with that intention, you start to build the skill more purposefully, and it has a service to you. So when you're building these skills, it doesn't do you any good to build a skill just for the sake of building a skill. Although when you're curious about things, that could be useful. But when you're wanting mastery around something, when you really want to build it out, it has to have that intention, and it has to serve you in some way to some greater purpose, some greater outcome that you're looking for. To give you an example, product management. There was a lot that went into building that skill set. Over the course of time, I started in project management on this particular career path, building a skill set for project management. How do I build that skill set? So I went and figured that out, understood it, implemented. Awesome. Then it was a matter of moving it into product, because a lot of those skill sets still transferred over. And then it was a matter of how do I build this skill to become a product manager? Because then you start to see all these different steps that build up to that particular outcome. So if you know what career you want, then it's a matter of deconstructing it backwards to build the skill set to get there. And that's where purposeful practice comes into play. Because if you don't know where you're going, it's like buckshot. It's going to be all over the place. But if you know exactly where you want to go, then you know exactly what skill to acquire. And so that brings us to how. How do I purposefully practice something? And this is where it's tactics. You need to build consistency into your practice. Now, that one tactic for consistency is scheduling. Coming from a project manager background, I got very used to time blocking areas. So that way it gave me better frameworks from which to approach different areas. So if I wanted to get better at a particular area, I would go ahead and I would time block. So if I wanted to learn Python better, for example, I would time block an hour, between 9 and 10 a.m. I'd go ahead and time block that out to do Python learning. to get better at that particular thing. And let's say, for example, my outcome for doing this is I want to become a data scientist. I want to go into machine learning. If that's the outcome that I want, then Python learning has utility. It has application. So then I'm going to time block that particular piece of it and consistently do it during that particular hour on that particular day every single week. And what this does is it starts to build habits into your routine to help you acquire that particular skill. When you have beyond curiosity and you've gone into interest, then these tactics are going to be helpful for you. If you're still in the curiosity phase, they're not going to be so applicable. So make sure that if you're in that phase, then a different approach is going to be needed. And I can make another video on that later. But the key here is if you do know or have interest in something and there's a particular outcome that you want, then it's a matter of purposeful or intentional practice, and then creating consistency around that practice. I hope this video has been of service to you and it gives you a better understanding of how you can approach things and really get good at them. And if it was of value to you, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. I do release videos every Tuesday. And if this is an area that you want to dig deeper into and to really start to identify what kind of job or life that you really want, then I have a free resource in the description below. Go ahead and sign up for that, and it'll help you walk through the process of what your dream life would look like, so then you know what that outcome is. And then you can start to work backwards from there. So again, I'm Sam with Systems of Impact, and until next time.